Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be reading Enlightening Messages, Spiritual Message, Prayers, and Tales from Francisco Cândido Xavier. Joy. Joy is the song of the hours when God caresses your passage through the world. Everywhere flowers bloom as smiles of nature, and the wind combs the field's hair with resting music. The water from the fountain is liquefied, carrying earth's heart, and the small golden grain of sand is a message of joy from the ground. Do not allow, therefore, that your difficulty transforms itself into numbing sadness for others. Even if everything appears to conspire against the happiness that you await, lift your eyes to the smiling face of life that envelops you and bluster joy wherever you go. Bless and serve always, even among tears. The rose, although subjugated by thorns, still offers its perfume, and sunrise awaits generously for the night to finish it in order to renew itself daily in a party of love and light. So let's close our eyes and appreciate that we are here together in this gloomy Sunday, and cherish that we are here to learn, to become a better person, and ask to open ourselves to the lecture of our friend Isa that we're going to hear today. So be it.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here. I know it's still winter, so it's still sometimes hard to get out of bed and come here. Appreciate your presence. The lecture today is about Spiritism Mediumship. That's the chapter 2 of the book, What is Spiritism? From Allan Kardec. Last Sunday, we had a lecture by Tiago, and it was a chapter 1, so that's the chapter 2. We're going to talk a lot about mediumship. If you have questions, this is a very interesting topic, how it works, and how we can verify if it's the communication is appropriate, if it makes sense, and the kind of the level of the spirits that is communicating. It's always a struggle. Okay. So preliminary remarks about Spiritism. So Spiritism, we don't really call a religion. We call more of a, it's a 2 parts. So first is a science of observation, which means it deals with the nature, the origin and destiny of spirits and their relations with the material world. But it's not an experimental science. What's experimental science? It's like chemical reactions, for example. So they're always going to be repeatable. If you do the same reactions in the same controlled conditions, you're always going to get the same results. However, in Spiritism, we're not experimental, which means we cannot guarantee results the same way because we don't control spirits. But however, it's a science of observation because we see the similar effects happening over and over and getting similar answers, and then we get to confirm what we believe. But we cannot call it experimental because we cannot guarantee the results 100% of the time in the same conditions. And the second part is the philosophical doctrine. So it studies the moral consequences that result from such relations. So when we talk about moral consequences, a lot of people think about moralism, which has a kind of negative meaning. But it's the moral that we talked about. It's not dogmatic, so we're not going to tell you, how to dress or the kind of music that you have to listen to. We don't create rules like that. We just tell you that we have to base our thoughts and behaviors in charity. So that's the number 1 point of Spiritism. And every time we deviate from the path that we're supposed to follow, there might be consequences. But you have your free will. You can do anything that you want, but there'll be consequences. So it's not about moralism and like telling people like the rules that you have to follow because like you have to behave this way and you have to be perceived by society in a certain way. You can do whatever you want. It's just that there will be consequences for you. So that's how we define spiritism, not really a religion, more of a doctrine, more really of a science of observation, and a philosophical doctrine. So spirits and human beings. So how the spirits differ from a human being? So human being has three parts. The most obvious is the body, the material envelope, which helps or has all the five senses and help us connect with the world. And the other easier one to understand is the soul. So the soul is the spiritual, intelligent principle, seat of thought, will, and moral sense, and it's indestructible. So when we talk about the spirits who are eternal and they'll live forever, that's the soul. And the other part that I think it's more of a people have a harder time understanding because we don't really talk too much about it is the perispirits, because it's the link of the body and the soul. So it's a fluidic link, semi-material envelope connecting the soul and the body, and that's retained after death. So as a human being, you have all three. As a spirit, you only have the perispirit and the soul. And communications with the spirits happen linking the perispirits of the body, of the incarnate and the spirit. So we can only have communications with spirits if there is this fluidic link with the perispirits. And some other notions about the spiritual world. So spirits are everywhere. They are among us more than we think. A lot of times when we have a really good idea and we think, oh, I'm so smart, I thought of that. And sometimes there's somebody whispering in our ears, in our thoughts. And then sometimes when we have a really bad idea, maybe under the control of other substances and a really bad moment for us, and we say something really mean or we do something that is not in our character, it could be also a spiritual presence guiding us to do that. We still have to have responsibility over what we do, but we are more influenced by spirits than we think we are because they are everywhere. Spirits have heightened perception. So sometimes they can read our thoughts, sometimes they can see what we're feeling. So they have more abilities than we do as incarnates. But it's not like they can do everything. It's not that they are like superpowers or superheroes and they can do whatever they want. They have limitations as well, but they have less limits than we do in the body. And there are various degrees of knowledge and ignorance, goodness and malice. So spirits are just like human beings without a body. So there are different levels. A lot of people like to think of spirits as they are all kind of saints. And if somebody died, they are amazing, they are great. But it's just the same person without a body. So there could be a huge different level of spirits based on how they were in the previous incarnations, what they went through. So spirits are not the same, so different levels. And when we have communication with spirits, let's say in a mediumistic meeting, we always have to do very seriously. So we don't play around. It's only a serious, consistent study and we have to differentiate what is a playful spirit, kind of trying to mocking us and doesn't want to be there, versus serious communications that sometimes is a message from our guides, from the mentors of the house. So we have to differentiate the communications. So this chapter talks a lot about how we can know if the spirits that you're getting communication, it's trying to trick you or just is a real message. So it's about having the discernment and understanding what's the content of the message and if the content makes sense, and trying to understand what's the goal of the spirits doing that. In other notions, there is a natural law. So communications are natural phenomena. So we don't talk about being something supernatural or superstitious. It's very natural, and it's explained by spiritism. So everything is clear from the spiritism science of it. So the perispirits acts as the lever, and the spirit envelopes objects or the medium with its fluid, transmitting movements or thoughts, not by the muscle, but by the will. So there's an example here. So this is Chico Xavier, and there's a lot of mentors around him. So you see, there's a kind of a purple line from the the head of the spirits to the head of Chic Xavier, and that's just an illustration of how it could happen. And there are two types: spontaneous, unexpected noise, raps, or apparitions. So that could happen when you're really not expecting. Sometimes you're at home and something happens, and it's like, oh my God, maybe it was kind of a communication. Or it could be induced using mediums for writing, speech, or typology. So that's what we do in mediumistic meetings. And the mechanism, so it's a pair of spirits that acts as the lever. And spirits can manifest in different ways. I'm going to explain the different ways they can manifest, but it's sight, hearing, touch, noises, movements of objects, writing, drawing. It could be so many different ways. Two types of effects: physical effects and intelligent effects. Physical effects could be noise, movements, lifting of objects. I think everyone knows some kind of a story, like horror story that happens, like a ghost, or like maybe your grandma told your story about something that happened with her. So that kind of noises, movements, and lifting of objects we call physical effects. Usually it's lower order spirits, the laborers. And the purpose is to prove the existence of invisible power. So they're trying to communicate and trying to make the person believe that spirits exist. And the other are the intelligent effects. That's the thought, writing, speech. So it's usually higher order spirits, but it could be any order. It could be wise or ignorant. And the purpose is instruction, moral guidance, and revelation. But communications can be good or bad, correct or erroneous, profound or superficial, depending on the nature of the spirits that manifest. Just like any communication we do with a human being, could be anything. And how we assess communication. So we have a saying that do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit. So every communication that we get, we're trying to understand what is the goal of the spirits, and if the message, it's really a higher order spirits, a guide giving us a message, or what he's trying to do. So we have to test the spirits. We never accept the communication blindly. We have to think about the logic, the consistent, the moral utility of the message. Anytime they ask for things that doesn't make a lot of sense, they demand something, or we can see on the language, like we have to question and understand what's the goal of that communication. So language is key. Superior spirits are always dignified, logical, and benevolent. Inferior spirits betray themselves with triviality, arrogance, or confusion. Be aware of names. So names, anytime in communications in spiritism, they get a famous name, we question it, because the probability of being real, that name being real, I believe it's very low. And even if it was a very high order spirit, let's say San John or Saint Francis, that spirit doesn't need to sign with his name, because the message is more important than the name. So every time there's a famous name, we really don't believe it, and actually it's a red flag. Imagine like you get a message and say Jesus, like what's the probability that Jesus is sending that message that way? So we don't really believe those when they get those names. And that's really a red flag. And sometimes the goal of signing with that name is to make the medium think he's superior or he's better than the others. So sometimes the spirits will try to trick the medium to believe he's better than others, and create conflicts in the mediumistic meeting. So there are many different goals that could be accomplished with using a fake name. And there are no guaranteed sources. Flattery commands absolute claims of truth, and wooden pride as assured signs of inferior nature. So we're always very, very careful about who's signing, because we don't really want to see like famous names. There's no point. So what are the conditions for a really good mediumistic meeting or any session of communications with spirits? So it's the law of affinity. So spirits are attracted by similarity of tastes and intentions. Like attract likes. A serious intent attracts serious spirits. So of course, We don't do it like as a joke or just for curiosity. Not sure if as a kid you had an Ouija board and you have ever played. Sometimes you get communications from spirits, but it's not going to be a serious communications. You're just asking for any spirit to come, and it's very dangerous. We don't recommend, because you can invite like any spirit to be with you right in that moment. So it's really not recommended. Seriousness required. So high order spirits would only attend meetings that they know for sure they are serious and it's not a joke. Respect. So the meeting should be conducted in order and respect, as honored guests were present in person. And the consequence of frivolity: noisy or frivolous gatherings repel wise spirits and attract deceitful ones who enjoy mocking the participants. And I'm going to talk about invocations. That's another thing that we don't really do, because when we invoke spirits, let's say you want to have Elvis Presley communicate with you, most likely it's not going to be Elvis Presley, and it's going to be another spirit trying to mock you or maybe take advantage of you. So we don't really do it. So evocations. So no superstitions. So evocation requires no cannibalistic formulas, magic world, sacred place. We don't really evoke spirits, but we can pray for them. So you can pray for your loved ones that passed away, but you don't have to evoke them. You don't have to demand that they come to receive the good thoughts, the good feelings that you want to tell or to send to them. The power of thoughts, the magnetic bonds. A simple, concentrated appeal to the spirits is sufficient. So it's really simple. We don't really need, anything. We don't need candles. We don't need to wear certain things. It's really just being calm and connecting, and make sure you're concentrated, focused, and you can send the thoughts that you want to, not invocated, but just as a letter, for example, and you can talk to, and you can send the message to your loved ones. Not necromancy, so we do not bring dead bodies back to life. We communicate with the living spirits that has left the body. And it's a natural process. So mediums receive communications naturally without transcendental theatrics or ridiculous accessories. So the mediums, we're going to talk about different types of mediums, but it's a very natural process for them, and we don't talk about being superstitious or needing something as an accessory or any other kind of tool. So why do we have manifestations? Why do spirits communicate? So the primary goal is to convince humanity of the future life and drive more improvement. So that's the overall goal. And the end of materialism, manifestations provide proof of the soul's survival, negating materialistic doctrines by facts, not just theory. And mediumship should never be a tool to acquire material fortune. So in Spiritism, we don't charge for communications. We don't really believe in mediums that accept money. Because it's not guaranteed. So how are you going to offer a service that is not guaranteed that they're going to get a communication? And if they're charging, maybe other spirits could be in play. And it's something that mediumship is something that we got for free. We were born, and we all have some kind of level of mediumship. Even if you think you have never seen a spirit, never heard a spirit, but you're also a medium in a different level because you have intuition. Maybe you feel people's energies. Maybe you can communicate with your higher self in a way. And that's mediumship as well. So we got it for free, so we're not charging others to use our abilities. And it's not guaranteed, so we cannot offer a service and receive money for that. Inspiration, not substitution. So spirits assist genius through inspirations to support merit, but they do not exempt us from work or research. So we get help from the spirits, but it doesn't replace the work that we have to do in studying, in improving, in the improving on our behaviors and our thoughts and how we act. And it's not fortune telling. In Spiritism, we also don't believe in fortune telling. It's really hard, and it's the worst question to ask a spirit. So, what's gonna happen to me? If I'm gonna get married, if I'm gonna get rich, like what I'm gonna do with my life? Because every decision that you make every day is gonna change your future. So it's like a GPS. I think when we incarnate, there is a very high level idea of what your life is going to be, but every decision that you make today is going to affect your future. So it's like a GPS. Every decision that you're making, your GPS is recalculating the route. So you could have a much longer life depending on the life that you do, what you do, or you could have a much happier life, or a much something could happen to you if you, for example, if you don't follow that path, and if you make really bad decisions. So every decision that you do is changing your future. So it's really hard to ask a spirit, like, what's going to be my future? Am I going to, especially specifically like very superficial questions, like if I'm going to get rich, or like how it's going to be my life in the future, because you're in control of your life, and every decision that you make is changing that future. So serious spirits refuse to predict the future or find the lost treasures. They're not helpers for material gain. So this is a really interesting question. Am I a medium? So I think we have all thought about that. So mediumship is classified based on how the spirits communicate through the medium. And the medium is only a tool, an instrument in the communication process. And being a medium, or depending on the level, doesn't mean you are special, doesn't mean you're better than others. It's just that before reincarnating, maybe you choose that path as a way to improve yourself. So if you're not a medium, if you don't communicate, if you don't write or talk with the spirits, doesn't mean anything good or bad. Maybe that was not the challenge that you chose for this life. Maybe you chose another challenge, but it's not special. And these are some of the ways that you could be a medium. So psychographics is writing. Psychophonic is talking. Clairvoyant, it's seeing. Sometimes it's seeing as an inner vision, not necessarily like a physical vision, but it could happen as a physical sight as well. If more than one person sees a spirit, for example, maybe it's more of a physical sight that multiple people see, but if you are the only one seeing it, it's more of an inner vision. Clairaudience, so it's hearing. So you could hear as internal voice, but it could also be physical if more people hear it. Intuitive, so I think this is the most common one. It's idea, thoughts, of impressions that are perceived mentally. I'm sure everyone has intuition, and everyone has kind of a feeling. Sometimes your subconscious is telling you what to do, and maybe you're very connected with that to make your decisions. There's also healing, like channel spiritual energy for healing. Physical effects, physical phenomena, moving of objects, materializations, or other observable manifestations. Physical effects, not really common nowadays. In the beginning of Spiritism, we talked about the moving tables, because they really need something very obvious to prove the presence of spirits. Nowadays, we don't really need it, so it's very uncommon that. Sensitive or empathetic, so the medium perceives energy, emotions, or presence from others. So that's another one that's very common. Sometimes you go into a room and you feel their energy, and sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's really bad, and it could be a sensitive or empathetic medium, or sometimes you meet someone and you just feel their energy, and it could be a sign that you also have that kind of mediumship. And there are many others, like musical, drawing, poetic, so many others, but at least intuitive and sensitive, I think everyone has some kind of level of that. And it's really good to think about it and try to exercise that, if instead of just negating, because a lot of people just are not connected with their intuitions. So talking about psychographic mediums, the types and faculties. So mediums are not universal instruments. Aptitudes vary widely. So when the medium starts to psychograph, it's a process, just like a skill that you need to learn, and it gets better with time. So how is the mechanical? So the hands, so there are three types: mechanical, intuitive, and semi-mechanical. So mechanical, so the hands of the medium is going to move involuntary, driving by the spirits, and the medium has no awareness of the content being written. So they have no idea what they wrote, and they just going to get to know it once they read it. And sometimes they even write in language they don't speak, because maybe they had a reincarnation in, like, say, in France. So they had a reincarnation, they spoke French. In this life, they don't speak French, but sometimes they're still able to write in French. That happens too. Intuitive, so the medium receives the thought mentally and writes voluntarily. So the medium acts as a conscious interpreter of the spirit's idea. And semi-mechanical is a mix of both. So the hand moves, but the medium is aware of the worlds as they form. And that's the most common one. So that's how if you're ever curious about how the mediums feel when they write, it depends on the type of the medium. And I believe Chico Xavier was mechanical because he would write so fast, and so many, they had always like to put more sheets of papers because it was so fast, and I think it's really hard for humans to write that fast. So the dynamics, the mediumship dynamics, so they're instruments, not the masters of the message. So the medium provides the faculty, but the spirits provides the will. So without the spirits, the medium is like a violin without a violinist. So mediums are just a tool for the spirits to communicate. Intermittence, so the faculty is not at the medium's command. Spirits come when they can and they want to. And that could happen if you are a medium, and then something happens. Maybe you're not behaving in the best way of for the purpose of the meeting, and that faculty is gonna pause for a little bit. It could be that many reasons, or let's say somebody is a clairvoyance medium, so it's somebody that sees spirits all the time. So this person is going to travel to a place that they don't have any spiritism support. So they could ask for that faculty to be paused for a little bit because the person doesn't have much support. And then when the person comes back to a place that has more spiritism support, it comes back. So that faculty could be paused. It could be stopped completely. It happens with mediums that charge. Sometimes they have mediumistic abilities, and they are very, very good at giving communications, and they start charging. And from that moment on, like, that ability stops. But the person is charging for the services, so the person starts to fake messages or to like get any kind of spirits to send a message. So that could happen as well. So it's ability that it could be taken away at any time. It could be paused. So that happens. Suspension is common and normal. And a lot of people, when they're kids, sometimes they have mediumistic abilities, but they are so afraid they block it. It's also very common. And they block it because they don't want to think about that. They don't want to study. They don't want to do anything about that. So that's also very common. Or it could be suspended naturally. So for those that had the abilities as a kid, we really encourage them to study, to go through the mediums study that we have a group here, so they could maybe re-engage with those abilities, because if they have those natural abilities, they would be great tools in our meetings. I think it's amazing for them to develop if they have the support, if they feel that they can do it. And it's not a talent, it's a loan. I love that phrase because it really summarizes what is a medium. So they're not special, they are not superior, it's not a talent, it's a loan that was given in this incarnation for them to use for the good. And for the good of others, and that's it. So unlike art of science, mediumship cannot be acquired or mastered by work alone. It always depends on an outside will. So that's the difference of any other skill that you develop, because it depends only on you. So if you want to become a writer, if you want to become an accountant, it only depends on you. But as a medium, it depends on the work of spirits and a lot of things happening. So it's not a skill that it's that I believe you should be charging because it's only your work. Harmony and reliability. So there is, for the communication to happen, there must be a fluidic assimilation. So communication requires harmony between the spirits and the medium fluids. And there must be some kind of affinity. So spirits prefer instruments that vibrate in unison with them. Not every medium suits every spirit. So in a mediumistic meeting, there are a few mediums, and their spirits chooses which one they want based on what the energy is like, or maybe the medium went through a similar situation that the spirit feels more comfortable using that medium as an instrument. It's just like, let's say you are a musician and you have many instruments in front of you, and you're gonna pick the one that you feel that you're more comfortable with, that you had experience similar, and you just get to choose one. Risk of substitution. If the desired spirit cannot harmonize, or others may step in to fill the void, often deceiving the medium. So that's the dangers of invocations, invoking a certain spirits, because most likely another spirit is going to come in because you are inviting them. And preparation for the meeting, concentration and prayer help establish necessary fluids to attract good spirits. So the dangers of mediumship and charlatanism. So what are the dangers? Why we don't tell people to invoke spirits and try to communicate with spirits at home, for example? So there are some spiritual dangers. Spirits, that they can, sometimes you don't have the proper protection. Sometimes you don't really know what you're doing. So it's not recommended. So what can happen? So spirits could impose themselves, give orders, and expect it to be obeyed. So anytime you feel that you're being pushed by some kind of spirit communication, it's not really good. And it could happen obsession. So obsessions, the control that lower order spirits may exert over a medium. And they could create a delusion, preventing the medium from seeing the falsity of the ridiculousness of communications. So obsession could happen in many forms, but it could happen through mediumship as well. And there are different degrees. So one is simple obsession. So this case specifically, we're talking about mediums that are going through this issue. So a simple obsession, sometimes the medium is even aware that they have obsession, a spirit, lower order spirits trying to maybe use their energy or is always with them, and they could feel it. Fascination is another level, because in that scenario, the medium is not aware anymore. Maybe the medium thinks he's superior, and maybe he thinks he's better than others, and he doesn't think he's obsessed. So it's very dangerous, and it happens with groups that could sometimes break out and even finish like mediumistic groups, because one of the mediums is fascinated and it starts creating fights with other mediums, and it's thinking he's superior. So that happens too. So this is a way of the lower order spirits to try to stop the work that's being done in that mediumistic meeting, is to create conflict between the people attending the meeting. And so the third level is subjugation. That's another level of the spirit controlling the medium. So that's why we try to avoid those mediumistic dangers with media communications that are not prepared, not properly protected. And there is also human fraud, charlatanism, trickery, the physical effects that somebody could fake, or sometimes it's even a medium that's had abilities, that had communications, but it stopped, and the medium continued to fake or to just ask lower order spirits to come and fulfill to always be providing messages. And there are no paid guarantees. Spirits do not perform on a payroll. I love this phrase. Paid mediumship encourages frauds because the phenomena cannot be commanded at will. It's just like, when you're calling a friend, is there any guarantee that friend's going to pick up the call? Is there any guaranteed what your friend's going to say, or maybe your friend is busy, maybe your friend's not there, maybe your friend lost his phone, or the friend's going to maybe just reply using a text. So there's no guarantees at all. And with spirits, it's the same thing. We cannot guarantee a specific spirits to answer. And the identity of the spirits, again, the problem of names that we don't really trust, famous names. High spirits may use a collective name. Low spirits may steal a respectable ones. And signatures are easily forged. So names are not important. A lot of the message we get is it's just a simple name. We don't really care about the name. So the real test, the identity, is proven by language, character, and teaching. You have to judge the message, not the messenger's name. And personal proofs, it could happen that the spirit could give you a personal proof that of his identity based on something, let's say, only you knew about that person. That happened a lot with Chico Xavier, the message that was psychographed. There is a lot of nicknames that he could never know, or like details to prove the identity. So that could happen, but it's not always. And if you request something like that, they might give you or they might not. And content is everything. So we need really to read the content and see if it connects with everything we have learned about spiritism and if the message makes sense. So sometimes we get contradictions. So in the work of Allan Kardec, he was basically getting communications through many different spirits, asking the same questions and checking if the answers would match. And sometimes he'll get contradictions. So it's normal. It's because not all spirits perfect. Most spirits are not perfect. So they have limited knowledge. They could be mistaken or still hold earthly prejudice. They're not gods. So that happens. Sometimes the spirit has a really good intention, but it's still, he could be prejudiced, he could be mistaken. And it could be personal opinions as well. So contradictions often arise because spirits express personal opinions as facts. That happens as well in the spiritist literature. For example, about vegetarianism and eating animals. So some spirits are very against it, saying that the energy of the animals, when they die, they're suffering and you're eating their energy. And other spirits says it's fine. So we see contradictions. So it's based on what you believe. So resolution: submit all communications to the severe test of logic, reason, and common sense, and reject what is absurd. So universal agreement: only low order spirits could differ in what they say, because high order spirits never contradict one another. So that was how Allan Kardec was able to summarize the teachings and the books, because he got enough of an agreement with the higher order spirits. So what are the implications of spiritism? So why we learn all of that, and why this is important? So it proves the existence of the spiritual world, leading to the end of materialism. So spiritism naturally proves the existence of the soul and its survival, turning vague theory into positive fact. Second one, end of doubts about afterlife. So I was thinking, so imagine if you tell a 20-year-old he only has 2 years to live. So how do you think that person would behave, like a general average 20-year-old? I'm sure he would not work, not do anything good. I mean, just like private pleasures and do anything like as for his pleasures. But what if you tell the person actually is not gonna die? You don't have only 2 years. You're actually gonna die at 80. So what is the person's gonna do as an average? So the person will have to work, because they will have to have money, and will have to have good relationships. So, and maybe have kids, and maybe have a family. And you thinking about a long-term view of the life that he wants to live. What if you tell somebody that they're gonna live forever, and they will have to face the consequences of what they do? So now I have, oh my God, so if I'm going to live forever, how should I think and how should I act? Because I'm going to have to deal with myself forever. So that's the thinking of for Spiritism, how we think about long term, not 10 years, but the life that we're going to live after we die. So it's all about, and also a lot of people with doubt about the future, people who are oppressed during this life by sadness and misfortune see death as the only end to their suffering. So in Spiritism, we are completely against suicide because we know there's an afterlife. But if they believe there's no afterlife and that's just the end of the suffering, for them it makes sense because in their mind they are not hurting anyone, they're just hurting themselves and just gonna end their suffering, which is not true. So that's why it's very important to think about the afterlife. And the moral transformation, the certainty of the future drives people to labor for their eternal future, fostering charity and abnegation. It's also a new force of nature, revealing the spiritual world adds a new agent to the forces of nature, explaining previously obscure phenomena. So it's the communications, the spirits, and everything that we talked. And it's broadening science, opens a new path for philosophy and science, correcting errors born of purely materialistic views. The way I see Spiritism is just like when people maybe 115 years ago, they didn't know about the microbes, the bacteria, the virus, because they didn't have a microscope. And the virus and bacteria were there since the beginning of the world, but they could not see it. So if they could not see it, they didn't believe it. And because of that, we had many plagues and many deaths because of the diseases. And people couldn't understand why they're getting sick because they couldn't see the virus or bacteria. And then after the invention of the microscope and the science, so now they get it. But it was there all along. All this time, the microscopic world was there. So the way I see Spiritism is the same way. It's not because science, the common science, the mainstream science hasn't proved it yet, it doesn't exist. So they are all here, they are among us, they are with us all the time. And one day, I believe science will be able to create a kind of a radar, or I don't know, some kind of way to prove that spirits where they are. So that's how I think about it. And similarly, a lot of people think about aliens the same way. Maybe they've been here all along, but it's not. One day, science is going to be able to catch, or maybe it's going to be disclosed to humanity. But that's a way of thinking that doesn't go against science. And that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, I think thank you. I think that's a very, very important topic for us to discuss here and bring it up, such as we also talk about charity, about improving ourselves and doing etc., as Jesus brought to us. I think it is important also to bring topics like this in our public lectures, because I know that people are interested and they want to know how that works and they have the curiosity to understand a little bit more, right? And just to add a bit on what you're saying, right? In a certain degree, everyone is a medium, right? It doesn't matter if you have like an expensive mediumship. Everyone is a medium at a certain point. So as you were mentioning about intuitions, right? Everyone has intuitions, and intuitions are nothing more than spirits giving us this path or these ideas and yada yada yada, right? And one thing that we also always discuss in our group on Tuesdays is everyone can participate on the mediumistic group, right? It doesn't mean that you need to be a medium on the group. You can work on the support, you can work on the passes, you can work as a counselor. For that, you need to study, of course, to go through the Thursday course and be able to have the knowledge and the understanding for that. So I think that's also very
That's
nice.
a good point too, Master.
Yeah, and it's not that it is a secret and just a small group of people can join. There are a lot of people that can do that. And when you were talking about the invocations, it remembered me about a phrase that Chief Xavier said, that the phone just rings from there to here, never from here to there, right?
Yeah.
So we will just receive the informations and the calls that they want us to receive. It's not that we can connect to them whenever we want and just ask random questions and have the answers for that. And just to finish my comment, when we have our meetings, the mediumistic meetings, to make it serious and to show how serious we are, we always check the messages at the end, right? So we read the messages together, we hear the messages, and then we have a brief discussion about that and if it makes sense or not, right? So that's just to show how important it is to bring that and analyze the messages that we are receiving. So yeah, that's it.
Makes sense.
Does everybody have any question or?
Yes.
I do, but
No, you go ahead.
maybe this is something that you probably asked afterwards, but for example, in a mediumistic meeting, I'm coming from the church, so we would call it prophetic meetings in the old church ways, but is it something where, as you were saying, that it's important to be able to discern the spirits, to know what they're saying, to make sure that it's in line with moral code? So as a medium is speaking, afterwards, as Patrick was saying, you guys will discern to see if the content is legit or not. Do you often cross-reference it with the gospel according to spiritism to make sure that it's in lines with, as Jesus being master, that it aligns with a lot of the things that Jesus was saying, praying that God's spirit is covering and discerning so that it prevents the lower vibrational spirits from entering? Like, I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
As part of the process.
That's a really good question. So in the meeting, how it works, first we start the meeting, we pray, we connect. In the first part of the meeting, we're actually talking to spirits that are looking for help. So we're not, at that moment, it's usually suffering spirits, or sometimes they are confused and they are feeling different, they're asking for help. So in that moment, so the medium, it's giving the communications, and we have another person talking to the spirit and trying to guide the logic, try to help them, and that they're gonna be sent to a place that they can be helped. So that's the first part of the meeting. So we're not really judging the level of the spirit. We're just there trying to help and sending like the energies that they need. And after we close that session, and then we ask if there are any messages from usually the laborers of the house, the mentors, the guides, and then we have a communication that it's really for us is anything that we should change, or how is it going. And that's the message that we're gonna judge and make sure that makes sense with the logic of spiritism. So that specifically, and then record it. And in the following week, we also listen to the message from the previous week, just to still remember what was told us. But to be honest, in this meeting specifically that happens here, the messages are always being like great. I haven't personally seen a message that was not in accordance with what we study, but that's usually the message telling us like some details that we should like be do we have to focus, or like the message to the group specifically. So that's how it works. But we have to, if there's something that's fishy, that we have to make sure that it's a true guide.
Sorry, just to piggyback on my previous question, let me finish this. So when you mentioned about the suffering spirits, because what you're saying in regards to the foundation and the organization and making sure that we're in line with the heavenly realms, that the organization is, whatever messages you get is to be able to uplift the organization. But when you mentioned about suffering spirits, so these are, for example, spirits who cannot see the light, cannot see the angels that are saying, come back to God. So in other words, they're more latched to us humans. I'm just trying to comprehend it. They're more latched to us humans. So we are assisting in mediating for them to say, okay, move on to like see God, see the angels, move on to that's what
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes they are confused about the why that happens, because imagine like sometimes someone would die and they would be very confused, like, why did I die so young, or why did this happen to me, why, like, if I went through this suffering is because God hates me. So that's the kind of, and there are so many different scenarios that could happen, but that's how we try to guide the spirits to be to be helped by the spirit's support that we have in this house.
Yeah, so Chico Xavier always mentioned or called himself the mailman. So I think this is extremely humble, right? It's like he's not writing any message. He didn't write any book. He received the message of 300, 500 books, but he didn't write it. So I think that's a very humble posture. And I think that we have to use these for everything related to the medium effect. And I think that we have to take the glamour out of the medium effect for many reasons. But it's very important to do not think that this is above our pay grade in any sense. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. First of all, the mediumistic effect is not it's not specific from Spiritism. Several other religions, they do have medium effects. Guess what? Judaism, who support Moses to write 4 books? Or who put these in the 10 Commandment plates? Or things that nature, that it's like, we never think about that, but it's like someone went there and wrote books. Those books were theoretically, or people understand them as God's message. So those are medium effects. So it's not, we are not superior because we do have a lot of books. We are not. We are as good or as bad as any other religion. Second, not everybody that participates on Kardecitism are mediums. Guess what? Our friend over there, Allan Kardec, he was not a medium, or not in the sense that everybody understands. He didn't write books in the sense of the books that he wrote were a collection of several mediums writing the books. He put all this together, and probably with a lot of support, but he's not the medium as we understand mediums, putting the hand to work. So there are space for everybody to participate on that. It's not just sitting down and receiving messages. So it's a very humble position. The next comment is you don't have to be superior to receive a message. Guess what? We have to take this glamour of spirits and non-spirits people or living people. I think Isa did a very good job on that, but I would like to reinforce. Everybody here is a spirit. Good, bad, level 1, level 10, it's like it's all the same. When you go to the other side, it's still the same. So you're gonna find good people, bad people, very smart people, not as moral, or the moral level might change. That's what I'm trying to say. Therefore, there are mediums that are not with a very good moral, and there are mediums that are extremely with good morals. And they are gonna attract different people, different spirits. Why this is important? In the past, it's we had a a very good medium. And I would like to put the cow in the room now. For those who are Brazilians and follow that through the news, but we had a very special medium named João de Deus. And he was a healer. He healed a lot of people. He was, in the beginning of his service, he was a very humble person, very small, just serving for free, and he supported a lot of people. My mom was one of them.
Say rather he had healing mediumship rather than healer.
Healer.
Had healing mediumship, because when we say healer, it's like he had the ability himself.
Oh, no, okay. Healing mediumship, correct. He support, he healed people through the
Spirits, right?
to the spirits. And he served for more than 20 years. In some point, Isa mentioned 3 or 4 elements that can happen to mediums, and one of them is fascination. And he started believing, and those are my words now, okay? He started believing that he was more than his surrounding. And his moral starts to getting degrade, let's put it this way. So he started committing a lot of bad things as a medium. And he's in jail now, just to guarantee that, understand how bad it could be. This is not to say that he was not a medium. He was a medium. He is a medium. But he also do bad things. So a medium not necessarily has a higher degree of moral than others. That's what I'm trying to say. But with all these, I think the way that the Descartes organize the effect, the mediumistic effect, it's important. First of all, everybody can go for a medium meeting, but you have to study. Otherwise, you won't understand what is happening. So everybody's invited. But go for the Wednesday's class or Wednesday's course. Read all the books that it's in front of you. Next, go for the medium course on Thursdays. When you're ready, you're gonna move for the Tuesdays meeting. Everybody's invited. It's not protected. It's not
Closed doors.
It's not closed doors. My suggestion here is just take a path in order to move, for you to enjoy more the experience. I talked a lot.
Thank you.
I want to ask one thing. When we talk about extensive mediumship, it makes sense and it's easier to understand. Like we get an external message and we have to evaluate it and try to understand whether it's a good or a bad one, and just make sense of it in general. But when we have our not so extensive kind of mediumship, so intuition, that kind of thing, how do we do that evaluation when we're not sure whether it is a message or not, whether it's just something that we believe in already? How do we distinguish that?
I think it's your conscience. So you think about it. You can pray on it. You can ask your guides, your mentors to show you if it's a good idea or not. But deep down, I think we always have their conscience. Like we know what's good and bad. And deep down, we know. But it's through it. So yeah, it takes a lot of self-knowledge. So in Spiritism, we talk a lot about self-improvement and self-knowledge. So when you know yourself, you kind of know what ideas are yours or which ideas it feels like was kind of like somebody put a thought in your mind, you know. So the best that you get at it as understanding yourself, and it takes years and years and decades to do, and it's never ending, but you get better and understanding if it's really a thought or not, and analyzing your conscious, and you can take some time and pray on that intuition.
And I think one thing, just adding on your answer, one thing that Leo mentioned is very important. If you're studying and you have the knowledge and you understand what happens through mediumship and through everything that Jesus brought and et cetera, it will help you to go exactly through that process.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Isa. All right, so thank you for everyone that joined us on the internet. I hope to see you next week, where we will have our lunch and learn, so everyone is invited. And for us that are here, we will get prepared for.
Saturday.
We will get prepared for our passes.